what we're going to discuss now could be very, very material for earnings of India Inc. There has been a lot of lobbying from companies to try and see if they can defer showing up their MTM losses or their forex losses for a considerable period of time, to defer it and then to stagger and show it eventually over the next 2 or 3 years. ICAI is not for it, but there seems to be a regulatory move which will allow companies to defer showing their MTMs in the current quarter. To talk about that, TV Mohandas Pai of Infosys joins in. Mohan, morning. Thanks for joining in. Where do you stand on that argument that their companies should be allowed to have a special reserve and then they can amortize their MTM losses through till 2011?
Well, I personally don't agree with it, Udayan, because I've heard the arguments for it, and I think the arguments have two sides. First of all, the first argument is that many companies have gone in for foreign currency bonds and the prices in the markets have crashed. But people who have gone in for these foreign currency convertible bonds knew that the market could go up or come down and took the risk. And I don't think accounting should bail them out if the markets go down. Second, they said that the rupee has depreciated by 25% and therefore is a very material development. But unlike in the securities market in the United States and Europe, where securities froze, in the sense the credit markets froze, valuation was a problem because you could not sell, and there were deep markdowns, the foreign Asian markets in India were quite liquid. At any point of time when the rupee was depreciating, people could take forward contracts and the market was deep enough for them, but many people did not. They chose to leave the position open in the hope that they will benefit. So I don't think accounting should change to bail them out. The third argument people have is that of the functional currency, and that I agree with, because the functional currency argument is that for certain companies where the assets and liabilities are substantially in currency other than the rupee, and the revenues and expenditure is also in currencies other than the rupee, that makes a deep impact and they have no choice of a functional currency. I agree with the argument, and I think we should change the standards for that. But that will impact only a small number of companies in India, like shipping companies and IT companies, and I don't think the IT companies are asking for this. And the next argument about this will be that amortization will allow them to match the income and expenditure. But there again, people who went for foreign currency loans went there because they thought they could get it at cheaper rates. They always knew the cost will be high because the cost also includes currency movements. The fact they did not hedge, they're caught now, is no excuse. So overall, I think I don't agree with this. But Udayan, if you look at what has come out in this whole thing, I think people are going to use this new development may not do the right thing. Think about this. If you take a one-time loss, a mark-to-market hit, you put the past behind you. I don't think the rupee may not depreciate more, and so the future will be quite good. They take a one-time hit, the earnings are not impacted going forward. If you take it to the balance sheet, the earnings will be impacted going forward because you're going to amortize till 2011. So you are, in effect, mortgaging your future for a loss which is there today, and I don't think it's a good idea because all investors and everybody else look at what is in the future. As far as people are concerned, I think whatever happens in fourth quarter is history. So I think overall, if anybody takes advantage of this, I would think that the CFO needs to re-examine the whole strategy of looking at it and taking advantage.
Why would they want to do that, Mohan? I mean, you raised the correct point that take a clean sweep, be done with it. And if anything, you may actually even have write-backs into your earnings statement if things improve in your favor. But why are people reluctant to do that? I mean, that would have been the logical thing to do. Is it because they want to hide things which have gone terribly wrong in terms of mismanagement of their foreign exchange operations?
Well, Udayan, today you can't hide anything. There are analysts out there. You are out there on TV dissecting every balance sheet. You've got so many analysts coming out and talking on TV and writing reports. You cannot hide anything. Everybody knows what is happening. People know how to read annual reports. And further, if you amortize it in the balance sheet, your net worth comes down. If you take a mark-to-market hit, your P&L comes down for the quarter, your net worth gets impacted. But if you pass it to the balance sheet, your net worth anyway is going to be impacted. Unless you capitalize it, and I don't think many people have actually used the money to buy assets. Well, those who have may get some benefit. But then when you capitalize it, you must go for the impairment test of the assets. And those assets which have been capitalized, the difference, may not pass the impairment test. I think if you look at all these, people did come with a proposal because I think they essentially were apprehensive as to what will happen to the financials. They recognize it. I, for one, feel that every CFO should take a snapshot as of 31st of March, take the hit on the chain and go along with their lives and say, okay, my future is much better. This has all happened, and I think I'm okay with that. I don't think they should do that, because nobody can hide anything anymore.
Mohan, morning. What happens to companies who are following the AS11 norms though for the first 3 quarters? I mean, does this mean that in the 4th quarter they're going to write it back and probably see a bit of a bump up in their P&L?
Well, they have a choice. They have a choice because they have to exercise the choice, and the choice is you cannot change the choice once again. But the choice has to be retroactive to, I think, 7 December 2006. So you've got to go all the way back and write back any gains that you got into your P&L, and then see the balance as of 31st of March, and then make the adjustments in that reserve account. So, you know, you got to change everything, and I frankly feel it's not worth it. Even if they take a bump up now, I don't know whether they can take it, whether the bump up will be good for them, because the analysts and others who look at everything will say, oh, what does it mean? I mean, you know, it is something that's an accounting thing, it's not for real, because economic activity is that the rupee has depreciated and your liabilities are much more because you earn in rupees. For those who earn in dollars, it's quite okay. But those who earn in rupees, they will say that your economic situation doesn't change, it's just an accounting entry. So there's some people may do it, but you know, I'm not one. If I was the CFO, I wouldn't do it, to be honest. And now that I'm not a CFO, if somebody were to ask my opinion, I said, please look at it very carefully, and it's much better you put the past behind you.
So Bala's not doing it. Mohan, just one word on the criticism that has been... I will in a couple of days from now. Just one word on the other criticism that has been laid against the AS11, saying it's an overload of disclosures. I mean, just as an example, if RIL had followed this norm for the first 9 months of this financial year, the net profit would have been 1,200 crores lesser than what it was reported to be. Do you agree with this point that AS11 is an overload of disclosures, or do you think it's something necessary in the current environment?
No, it's not an overall of disclosure. It's necessary always, because that's the standard that we have to follow. Remember, the most important thing about the balance sheet is that its financial integrity should be disclosed and should be proven. If you fiddle with the accounting, you change standards, the financial integrity of the balance sheet could come in doubt. And I don't think it's an overload of disclosure, because I think investors and users of financial statements have a right to all the information. They know what has happened, and they will price it into their decisions. So I don't think so, because I firmly believe transparency is a competitive advantage. If you're very transparent, you stand up before people and tell them, this is what the economic condition is, this is where we are, and this is what we plan to do, they understand. And they sympathize with you, because they all know that tomorrow will be better. I mean, we should not do anything, I personally feel, which will, you know, put us in jeopardy for the future. So take a hit, go along with your life, and, you know, life will be better tomorrow.
We haven't spoken about Satyam since the day the scam erupted, Mohan. What's your observation on how this whole process has been carried forward, and what has kept away many of the bidders who we thought we would see the faces off in the bidding game?
Well, Udayan, when I would travel abroad, I'm a trustee of the International Accounting Standards Committee Foundation, and, you know, I travel abroad, met many people. They're all concerned outside India about this scandal. I met very, very senior people in the business community, in the accounting community, and they're very concerned as to what is happening in India. And many of them, I think, had some sneaking suspicion about the quality of accounting in India. And I told them that it's an aberration, this happened, there's a fraud, the fraud could happen anywhere. But what they're watching is how the government responds to punishing the people responsible for this fraud. And I think the government is moving very well. The Serious Fraud Office is doing a good job. The CBI is doing the investigation. SEBI is doing a great job. And I think they're all close to filing charges. And if those charges are proven in court, a persecution is done. And I think credibility for India Inc. will remain very high in the international community. And I'm very happy about that. But you know, whether people enter the fray or not, I think is left to them, depending upon the risk perception they have, their view of growth in future. So I think it's the individual companies. The fact that there are suitors is good. Hopefully by the month end we'll all put it behind us, and, you know, we'll all carry on with our lives. But it is a big setback for India.